Alrighty. Wedging table. Alrighty. Somebody said, "Woo!" first. Thank you. Move this over here. I'm gonna set our first little add on there. It's my little knife cutting tool. I have some water on here. Put this down just a little bit. And take that water off. Darien True Blood. That sounds like an Elden Ring name. Like, what's that one guy's name? Is like Nahaj, the Bloodied Finger, or something like that. But there we go. Sweet. Alrighty. Apple. Good morning, chili dogs. What you focus on grows. Feed them horses. 3 more pots coming your guys' way. We're gonna get right into it. We're listening to some like interstellar sci-fi thing right now, so I'm trying to match the vibe. I'm like some imperial diplomat, yes. But let's go. Green, off. Green, off. Sometimes you gotta give it that double try. Alright, I'm gonna turn this thingy off here. And here we go. Middle, out. Second, out. And third, ooh. Pottery shelf. Camera C. Camera B. Get a little bit of water right underneath this edge here. Spin that wheel. Have your fingers right underneath. Project that left hand forward and slowly walk this clay up. Again, today I was thinking about that one potter that I mentioned a few days ago named Phil Rogers. He's a guy who was an early inspiration to my ideas on ceramics, or it kind of like swayed me towards ceramics as a material to work with, right? Or clay as a material to work with. And what do I mean by that is, before I did all this, I was a drawing major, right? I did a lot of drawing stuff. And thought about it for a while. and I ended up leaving it, and I was starting with ceramics. Specifically, I was sculpting things. I wasn't really doing stuff on the wheel right away. And I left the sculptural stuff to get to the wheel because of that potter named Phil Rogers, right? And so it was kind of cool to see some of his work. He passed during the COVID years, right? But he had this idea where he was talking about how throwing on the wheel is kind of like just drawing in air. And I think those words really stuck to me quite a bit. And so whenever my drawing teachers would ask, yo, dude, why do you keep bringing in pottery and ceramics to your drawing classes? I'd be like, no. You don't understand. You're viewing drawing is too segmented away from other aspects, right? And so I kept trying to tell them, seriously, when you're on the wheel, it really feels like you have a line and you're drawing with it. That's what the vessel becomes. But obviously that didn't really work out too well. It was a drawing class. But I was just so addicted to the clay back then. Because I could sense that I wasn't going to give up on it. And so I just kept attacking it like a wild animal. But here we are, opening up the clay. We have it about maybe 1/8 of an inch on the bottom here, right? Pretty thin. And I'd say most of the time, you know, even when I take them off, if I was to wire this off, I'd cut right through the bottom. But we don't wire them, we just allow them to come off naturally when they dry, right? So here we go. Camera A. Hey guys, it's me, Mr. Llama here. We're gonna make another volcano on this rim world of a planet we're on. See you guys in a second. Llama's gonna bite down on that rim, slowly squeeze, and walk this up. There we go. Wheel. So now we have our volcano. We're gonna grab our knuckle. We're slowly gonna hang out right at the bottom here. And I walk this up slowly, right? There we go. We're gonna color this in. Very cool. A little bit of water, again, right on that interior. Again, the walls are still a little bit thick towards that bottom, so we're pushing down first. I'm slowly shifting that base in. And then I'm slowly walking that thick clay up. And you almost want to feel like your fingers are cutting through the clay to get it on center, right? Because that base is probably usually not perfectly on center. And so what we're really trying to do is we're trying to carve a new center. Okay? So we're going to color this in one more time. Round this right on the top. We're going to swap over to camera B. A little bit of water right on there. Again, hand down. A little bit of water right on the arm. I'm looking really close at this bottom bump here. I'm slowly getting this bump. I'm walking this up. I'm very thin. You can even see where I'm thin right at that bottom base. So we're going to continue. We're going to finish off the pole. We're at another thin spot here, so I'm going to go slow. Ooh. Look how wobbly we are on that base, but we're still finishing off the pole. Trying not to add any more tension. Sweet. Okay. We also got to get some new water because this is already full of a ton of slip. I didn't clean it out from yesterday. Okay. some of the water out. Alright, here we go. Take a breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is, that last one was a little bit off, but it's going to be too thin, so it's going to collapse down right away. So you can kind of see here. We're going to have to walk this twist down if we want it to twist up at all. So we're going to slowly dry our hands off on our pants. Hold that top, walk that in, push that down, a little bit of water on your fingers here. Find that new arch for us to start pulling that from. You ready? Kiss that rim. And so this is kind of interesting because you see how it was so thin on that bottom that it actually collapsed inward because it was too thin on that bottom edge there, right? And you could tell it was thin because it was starting to buckle down there as well. We barely have enough to make a skirt on this pot, so I used maybe a little bit too much clay. That's okay, because we'll just do something very small and subtle on this bottom. Again, launch this right up underneath. Smooth out that base slowly. Kick that up. Get ready to grab your pinky. And maybe we even use our knife tool here because it's so thin. I'm going to pop this up. And then we're just going to go like this. Slow this down and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So something very, very slight on that bottom, just to show that we're giving it a little bit of attention, right? Okay, there we go. I just got some clay on my foot, so that's kind of gross, but camera C. Okay. Number 1 done. Okay, we're gonna get some new water bucket here. Put it in. Great. We're gonna grab our other bat. There we go. I know the lighting just felt like it made sense because, oh, I gotta get my hair over my shoulder here. The lighting made sense because I felt like if I'm on some like outer space planet, I can imagine like the suns and stars are really weird, or it has a lot of moons, so it's always like really high contrast. At least that's what it reminds me of when I think of whatever space stuff. All right, we're gonna do another. This is gonna be another small one. You know, this is about maybe a little bit over. Maybe like 2.1, 2.2 pounds. What do you think of people doing a clay/mud bath? Did you notice it actually being good for your skin? When I first started throwing, it is like I think I told you once, but like when I'd squeeze my hands, I'd just start bleeding all over my hands and my fingertip, or the tops of my fingers. And so it was like not too great, but that's just because I was doing it every day, I think. But then eventually I think my body sort of got acclimated to the clay, and so then it stopped cracking and getting too dry. So I think my skin just started producing more oil on my hands maybe, or something. Walking this up. Could also be something in the clay too. I never thought about that, but all right. Camera A. One more time, right at the bottom base. some water. Push this down a little bit more. And then I'm going to swap over to camera C. Camera C. There we go. Over top, as you can see, left hand always on that left side. I'm pushing down, you know, as I just got home, you know, right off the bus. I had a little fruit bowl waiting for me and a cold glass of milk. And I sit down, turn on channel 27 to watch some cartoons. I jump on the couch, I'm sitting on there for a second, and then I sink into the couch, right? That's the amount of weight that you want to put onto your fist. It's like you're sinking into the couch, ready to get relaxed, right? Slowly open up the clay. Some water on the inside there. Slowly hook your fingers. I'm using mostly my middle finger to cut across this bottom. I'm always checking for those rabbits. If I find any, I try to pierce through them. A little bit of water again right on this edge. I'm rounding this off. I'm going to swap over to camera A. Camera A. So you can see I have this two little, like almost like a stair step here. I like to make sure I get this into a singular little donut shape. Right? There we go. I smooth this middle part out to the side here. Take a breath. There we go. Now I have that nice donut shape. Here. I gotta call somebody quick. Hold on 1 second, guys. Guys, I was walking around this desolate planet, and I found this weird tubular monstrosity of a pot. It looks like a torpedo, but what is it? Let's find out. Hold on. Camera B. It was a llama calling instrument. Hey guys, it's me. I saw that somebody used the llama calling instrument and called me here to make a volcano. And so here I am. Llama's gonna bite down on that rim. And then slowly, llama hand's gonna walk back as that right hand, or that left hand is pushing forward a little bit, right? Alright, grab my sponge right down to the bottom. Open this up. I'm gonna grab my knuckle right along this bottom edge here, and I'm slowly pushing that bottom base in. Mess it up a little bit on this rim, so I gotta make sure I thicken this up. So I'm slowly gonna hook my thumb around and push down a little bit, right? Smooth this out. Again, a little bit of water on that base. Right down to the bottom. I'm going to slowly push this in. Okay. And with this one, what I want to do is first I'm going to get some of the water out of the interior. And I actually want to call this up a lot thinner since it's not that much clay, right? At the beginning I said it's probably almost right around 2 pounds. I'm gonna have to make this a little bit more narrow to get that height that I'm looking for, right? So again, I want to get that hair over my shoulder because it keeps drifting in front of my face and it's so obnoxious. I'm gonna collar this up, and again, it just dripped right down in front of my face, so that's great. I'm gonna collar this up, and you see when I collar, first any inconsistencies get exaggerated, but I also got a lot of height from that collar, right? So now we're gonna go right down to the bottom. Get ready. right at the base. Slowly squeezing. I find that bump. We're really thin there, so I gotta be really careful. But we're gonna finish off the pole. Okay, sweet. Okay. So now this is what I'd say is we'll start from this point. Get them right down to the bottom. Get some of that water out of that interior there. I'm going to start up the twist. And with this one, we're going to be really tight with the twist. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so there we go. Slowly twisting this up. I'm going to hold this top in. Here we go. Push that down. Get ready. And we're going to very slightly pop our hands out. We're going to go up just a tad. We'll stop it there, but we're not done yet, because I think I want to bring this one out a little bit more. As you can see, I'm slowly skating my other fingers out to open up that top. So now we have that opened. Again, add a little bit more water. I'm going to see how much more open we can get it here. Okay. There we go. So, I'm kind of liking this. I have a lot of clay at the bottom, and so I'm going to use some of that to create some more interest, and I'll probably do a double tandrel on this one, because the first one we didn't really have that much clay to work with. This time we have a bunch of clay on the bottom to work with. Let's play around with it a little bit, right? Did you ever visit a country other than the US? If so, what was the place most beautiful? Which people were the ones you remember the most? In high school, I got the awesome and amazing opportunity to go to Europe, right? And I went to Greece, Italy, yeah, I guess the Vatican City, but that's in Italy, right? But in Rome. But still, pretty interesting. I think the most memorable part of the trip was two things. One was I walked this trail called the Path of the Gods in a place in Italy called Positano, right? And we walked, and there was like little farms and a little mini church, and then we walked slowly through like an old style village all the way down until we got near the shoreline where it was all modernized down to a stone beach. And I thought it was just something really interesting about the sights were beautiful, but there was something interesting about how things changed as we got closer to the shore that I thought was really jarring, right? And so I thought that was kind of interesting. Not in a negative or a positive way, just I thought it was jarring how fast things changed by if you just go a little bit out away from those popular areas. And then the other thing was in the Vatican, right? I'm not going to say the Sistine Chapel. Yuck. I hate that place. Everybody's trying to get there, and it's kind of cringe to me, right? But what I did like was before the Sistine Chapel, right, there's a big hallway full of tapestries, right, that there's not any like artificial lighting because they want to preserve the colors of the tapestries, right? So a very dimly lit hallway, very creepy, but man, when I look at those tapestries, my brain just kind of has a hard time understanding how it works, and so I became very fixated on looking at these tapestries and all the little stitches and the colors, and wondering how it was made or how they were thinking about making it, right? How do you sketch on a tapestry, right? Do you use like another sort of thread or something, or do you actually sketch onto it? It was just kind of a cool thing for me to think about and to look at, right? And so I really like that. So those were my two places I liked to go when I was in Europe. It's hard for me to remember now though because it was so long ago, but still pretty cool. Just a little a wiggle tendril here. There we go. So one's going in. I'll show you guys in a second. Camera A. Look at that. So I have this one on the inside of the tendril, literally trying to crawl into the interior of the pot there. And so I think this one kind of looks pretty cool. But here we go. Camera C. I think somebody a couple days ago asked me to do something like this, so if they're here, there you go. One more pot to go. This is more the normal amount of clay that we would use. And so I'd say this is probably 3.2, 3.3 pounds, right? Alrighty. Seal this edge off, right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm sealing that edge off. And also something to look. Why am I not sealing it with this hand? Why am I sealing it with this hand, right? It's because as the clay's moving, it's going to slide through those fingers. Or if I have my hands here and a bump, it catches into the fingers, right? Something to keep in mind is you always want the clay to slide easily through your fingers, not jam into them, right? Here we are, pushing left hand forward, going up against that right hand, and we'll swap over to camera A. Camera A. Here we go. Getting some water at that base. Slowly project that forward and walk that up. Here we go. If you change what you're doing now, hypothetically, would you like to go into a job that needs you to be more intricate with my hands or more strong? I think definitely more strong. I would rather, I'll give you an example. So you'll see some video of maybe like some woman like making the little delicate like flowers on some like Chinese blue slipware pottery or something, right? Some porcelain stuff, right? And I look at her making those little flowers and these one little strokes, marks, and very easily like busting them out, and it feels painful for me to imagine myself doing that. But I see a guy on an oil rig taking one big claw and putting it on a pipe, and then taking another big claw and taking it off the pipe. Looks very labor intensive, but he's kind of just throwing it around. I feel like I'd rather be sweaty, grimy, and greasy rather than work very delicate with my hands. Even though I'm doing pottery, which some people would say is a delicate thing, I don't really view it as much like that. Plus, I think you get paid a lot to work on some of those like big machinery things. So that's my personal opinion on that. especially like brushwork. That's not my forte. I couldn't do that. I'd be the guy who thinks, how could we automate this? That's interesting though. I think that's actually pretty, you need all sorts of people in the world to make it function, right? Like that's how things were for a while, and then somebody like you came along and said, okay, now we're gonna make some other invention to help us out, right? But I always have massive respect for those people who can do all those really high labor jobs. That's not an easy thing to do. Here we go. Slowly take that wobble and walk that up to that left hand. There we go. There you go, a little bit more. Yeah, it'd be kind of an interesting, since there's a space background, I wonder what other, personally, I'm an alien believer, okay? I wonder what aliens would think if they saw, like, art, right? Like, I wonder if that's, like, a uniquely human thing. Here we go. Like, could you imagine aliens just don't listen to any music? Yikes. Here we go. Hypnotic. I took some pottery classes in school but never got to use a wheel. It looks so hypnotic. Yeah, I think it is when you look at it. I always say this to like my students whenever I first start a class. I always tell them, if you took this class because you thought it was going to be like super relaxing to do, I would say just prepare yourself for the moments where it's very like not so relaxing, right? Prepare those moments for when you spend like weeks on something, and that last week, you know, maybe the last day or right when you're setting it in the kiln, something goes wrong, right? I think that stuff can really take the joy out of, first, that if something has happened to anything that you're working on like for that long, it's just kind of soul deadening, right? But I think if you're not prepared for it and you think that pottery is super peaceful, man, that's something to make you quit it right off the cuff, you know? But I tell them that the real joy in pottery is not the actual process of making it, right? It's after you fail so many times and after you keep on working at it and you finally can level up, or like through just your time working on the wheel, you gain almost like skill points in a video game. Like you can do something that you didn't think that you could do, right? That has this feeling of real glory because there's almost like a suspense. Sorry, I'm skipping past llama pole, but this is llama pole. There's like a suspense, right? There's like a rarity of something happening, right? And so you almost build up this own little, call it history. Yeah, like your own little personal history with working on the wheel. But there's real glory, I feel like, when you work with a material that doesn't like you, right? And I think material, or clay as a material, just really hates the people that use it. Always trying to, there's some like real core simplicity to clay as a material, right? Like I feel like clay as a material is very chaotic, right? Like Like it doesn't want to be your friend. It's chaos, right? And so if you imagine that wheel is chaos, or the clay is chaos, right? Then your wheel is like gravity. It's like a general force that can't be obstructed, right? Centrifugal force and gravity are working against chaos, right? But it's also working against you, right? And so how do you tame that chaos when there's these other forces around? I know that seems kind of artsy-fartsy language, but sometimes I think there's like a lot of really simple correlations that you can make to life when you work with clay. Find this bump. You're just slowly walking this bump up. And we get to the top where it's thin, and we're slowing down. You can see I dissipate that bump. There we go. Okay. A little bit of water. Camera B. Alright. We'll walk the bump up one more time. But I'm so thin on this top, I gotta be really careful. But here we go, a little bit more water. Gotta make sure I get this freaking hair out of my shoulder here. Hopefully the more clay that's on the hair, or more clay that's, yeah, the more clay that's on my hair, it can stick to my back so it doesn't come forward. Alright, so right down to the bottom, I push in. I shift both hands in. I slowly feed that into your hand upwards until I find this little bump here. And then that's when I'm walking up, right? I'm going to slow the wheel down a little bit. Really focusing on having that fingers on the exterior meet those fingers on the interior. But do you see how my wrist is curled up? Because I almost want it to feel like I'm lifting it upwards. Some people will close their wrist down, and I feel like they're actually pushing that clay down. You almost want to feel like your hands are ready to fly off into the sky. And so like you can see this wrist here is up as I'm pulling that up, right? It's not down and just continue down all the way, right? It's curling up, almost like you're creating the letter J when you're making the pull. Okay. So we're really thin on this top, so we gotta be careful here. We're gonna get some of the water out of that interior. Why don't I tie up my hair? Yeah, you're right. I should. I don't know. I think sometimes, like, I feel like for the longest time I didn't have hair, so I'm still working on like how to manage it properly. I feel like if I grew up with long hair, I'd be more accustomed to naturally just grabbing things to put in my hair, right? Okay. Here we go. Take a breath. And out a little bit. And here we go. And take this up. And slow it down, and then really take it up. And stop. So 2 speeds. And we're gonna slowly walk, 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 walk. There we go. Exaggerate these little bumps that we've made here, right? Call these the veins of the tree. And if you want it to collapse lower, that's all you gotta do is stretch that more towards the bottom, right? But here we go, we're holding the top, having our fingers on this interior, and we're slowly twisting those out. You can see as you twist them out, what does it want to do? It just wants to collapse, right? And then, I think, you know, I haven't done an open tree on one of these ones yet. So let's see how this works. I just open this tree out, and I'm sort of trying to mimic the wobble of the treetop here with my hands until I can get that totally opened. There we go. Okay. Finish that breath. right on the bottom. Getting ready to make this tendril. And so that's something too, if you go too fast, it's really hard to match that wobble, right? So you could kind of see how my hands, I'm kind of matching that wobble. And so that's how you can keep it not on center, but that's how you can continue a pull even though it's getting off center, right? And so why does it get off centered so much on that top? Well, first, a lot of the stuff on the bottom could be or have some sort of influence on it. The twist, you see how it doesn't have an even starting base, and the top, that's really the most important. If I don't end them off perfectly at the same spot, when I open it up, it's going to be collapsing because it's weaker in some of the spots that have it further up, right? And so if you're ever wondering why some of these things turn out the way they do, there you go. Okay. What happens when you drag the veins over the spiral? Oh, I've done that twice. I've done that twice over the whole year. I've done that twice. It looks the same. Have you ever seen one where you can see the throwing lines really well in the, like if you can see the throwing lines really well in the actual veins of the tree here? That, it does something similar to that. It looks okay. I feel like it's a little bit busy, and I think I appreciate it more when it's subtle, but maybe tomorrow I can do something like that. Beautifully said. That makes sense. I would imagine once you accept that anything you're making might not work out, there's a lot of calming facility to that. Not sure if I worded that perfectly, but yeah, you know, I think I still, whenever I'm on the wheel, I'm never really calm. Especially like I'm streaming in front of people too, so I feel like I'm actually super nervous all the time, but like, I kind of like the battle of it. Like that's my favorite thing, right? Sometimes I feel like, who's that guy, Sisyphus? You know, pulling up the boulder every day. At the end of the day, it falls back down as he gets eaten by birds or something. Kind of what I imagine this is kind of like for me. There's that meme a while ago. One must imagine Sisyphus happy or something. I feel like I relate to that a little bit. But what else? Would be the maximum size of one of these trees? In one live you said that someone asked for a bird found by the version, but I picture a big one. Wait, did I just say that? I can't even remember if I read that out loud or in my mind, but the biggest one is probably 26 inches. Maybe actually 28 inches. That's the biggest one. I actually had to take the top of the kiln off and then stack soft bricks up to gain a little bit more height so I could fit the piece in the kiln. But it's kind of different. It's more of just like a really tall cylinder with a tree on top of it. It's not like a full tree form object, right? And so that's probably the largest of the trees I've made, but that was just testing, not really a part of the 3 a day. Sometimes I'll make a lot more than 3 a day depending on where I'm at, because people want to see it, or like sometimes I'll be asked like, yo, can you do a demo in the galleries today? And I'll say, sure thing. And so I got to do that twice now, which was kind of cool. And so I always make some more trees for that, because I think it's kind of an interesting thing rather than just normal pottery that you would see, right? Okay. Does it taste good as it looks? Depends if you like clay. There's a lot of people on YouTube who like eating clay or chalk, specifically chalk. It's like really dry too. Like I feel like nobody's eating like mushy clay. It's always dried. Oh, there we go. So there's the third one. So camera A, you kind of like that. It's the most relatable dude in history. Yes, this is the bird-eating guy is different. Oh, Prometheus, that's the guy who's doomed to be eaten by birds by Zeus. It was on the tip of my tongue. Does it taste it? Do you feel nervous now? Well, of course. People are watching me throw. I'm a lot better at handling that sort of stuff. I remember there was this one time I went to Nsika, which is this national clay convention. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I don't think I'll go again. Actually, maybe that's not true. I might go to the one that's next year. But just because I know some people who are going to be in it, but I don't know. I just think, like when I was there one time, I was throwing and my leg just kept on shaking and shaking and shaking. It was like, I felt like I was, you ever see bunny rabbits when they shake their leg a whole lot? Like they, brrr, that's what it felt like. Like I felt like I was like one of those rabbits or something. And my eyes just kept twitching and it was just really uncomfortable. Like it was almost like burning. But then, I don't know, I get like that sometimes still now, but not as much. I think it happened in one of the videos a little bit ago, but I just don't really, you gotta be willing to throw yourself into uncomfortable situations. I learned that my mind will often cause me to overthink and overanalyze things, and I'll use that as a way to make excuses for me not to do the things that would probably be beneficial for me, right? And so that's the whole reason why I'm doing this every day, is because I want to be more attuned to doing the things that I don't like as if I loved it, right? Well, I never heard the saying, one must imagine success happy. That's awesome. First, positive mindset. Deeply affecting your life. You could innovate on the clay eating genre. That's so funny. I feel like the dry clay wouldn't have a great mouthfeel. I don't know, dude. Look up one of those videos and you tell me, like, those people look like they're eating like a steak dinner. Okay, I actually think the vibe here is cool. I'm going to slowly bring the camera focused lower so that front one is more in focus. I'm liking this. I actually really like the reflected red that's happening on the pot. I'll show you guys that in a second. But anyway, send me some energy. I gotta transform myself into mini me with the great saying. So here I'm gonna charge some energy. Send me over some. Maybe I should grab my whistle. Hold on. I feel like that would be kind of cool if I play the whistle as I'm doing this. I don't know if you guys can even hear the whistle. It's such a low note. I think this is my largest whistle. Alright, come on, whistle. Apple. Greetings. We're gonna do a pottery review here. Alright, so I think maybe we'll start off with this one over here. I think I like this one the most of the day. I think that when I finally got to do one where I did a buffer twist on the bottom and I slowly got to lead that up to the treetop here, and I opened up the treetop. I don't really have a lot of them where I do the buffer and then the middle twist and have it open all in the same vessel. So I actually really think that this one's the winner of the day. I think it's colliding some of other ideas in a really positive direction. I think it goes out a little bit wider. I think when I do these ones, they end up looking very cylindrical, right? And so I think just popping that edge out ever so slightly on the top really gives it something a little bit more interest to the object there. We're gonna go over, let's go right into the one on the top. The one on the top, we'll leave the one over here for last, but the one on the top, I feel like I'm like one of those Star Wars characters in the desert. But yeah, I think the one on the top for me, it's the most uniform of the ones today. It didn't really have a really long skirt on the bottom of the tree, and so how did I kind of account for that is I almost just like used my tool as my finger so that I could kind of jam that into the bottom of that vessel, give it some pattern, some interest, right? Not just leaving it alone. I think sometimes could be a good idea, but not on this pot. It felt like it needed something, and so that one's more simple too. Again, it's coming inwards. These other two are kind of splaying outwards, and so I think that's where it leads me to this one over here. This one over here, I think, is the second favorite of the day. And why is that? Look at the camera up top here. Do you see how that tendril on the side right here curls up over top, finally trying to enter into the vessel, trying to see what's happening right in that little vortex in the center there. So I think that's kind of cool. Maybe I have like 5 of these ones that are kind of like that. I don't do that too often, and they usually aren't tall enough to actually get in, but using the shorter amount of clay but having a more longer skirt allowed me to do that. So kind of a cool vessel here. I also want to just point out something I noticed when I was looking at it is when the light hits it, you can see the refracted light, maybe not refracted, but reflected light from the orange bat onto the object. It's almost ominous with the little red light here. I think it just kind of looks crazy. So, I don't know. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. All the best. Strong mentality. Goated 1. Alright, so that's it, guys. I'm gonna get these over here. Thank you guys for all the energy emojis earlier. I felt the energy in my soul. Bro summoned a demon. Bro just summoned a demon without knowing. It's so funny. The dude is very endearing. I like its wobble and the wide mouth. Yeah. Somebody said they like my style. Thank you. The rightmost one, I'm looking at it now, is leaning. Is cool. The tendril is nice left. And a nice experimentation, but I guess I'm not feeling it. I like the bulky base of the middle one. Ooh, the middle with the double collapse. Yeah, I think that one is kind of cool because it folds in more. It's almost like it popped up and down and then up again. So I think that one is kind of nice. Cleaning that thing, you're done. So funny. Somebody said beer pine for real. Somebody said that'd be a cereal bowl. I literally think it'd be so funny if I gave this to a bunch of people and they just tried to use them as functional objects. And just made videos about how unusable they are. Or pretending like they are really functional. And like we gaslight every other potter in the world thinking that this is the new functional way to, most ergonomic way to throw. Anyway guys, alright, I'm gonna head off here. Thank you again. I appreciate it. Computer. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.